4 years. Thousands of Mushoku Tensei fans blamed Eris for one single decision. She left. Without any explanation. Without a proper goodbye. And she left Rudeus completely broken. To many viewers, it was one of the most selfish moments in the entire anime. But there's one problem. That conclusion only makes sense if you've only watched the anime. Because the light novel tells a completely different story. A story that changes the way we see Eris entirely. The truth is, she never believed she was abandoning Rudeus. She believed she was doing the exact opposite. But before we continue, I want to hear your opinion. When you watched that scene for the first time, did you get angry at Eris too? Or did you always feel like the anime was hiding something? Because once you learn what was really going through her mind in the light novel, it's almost impossible to see her the same way again. Everything begins after the battle against Orsted. One of the most traumatic moments in the entire series. Rudeus did everything he possibly could. He came up with strategies, used every spell he knew, fought until the very last second. And even then, he was completely overwhelmed. Eris witnessed all of it. She watched Rudeus risk his life. She watched Orsted defeat him with terrifying ease. And for the very first time, she realized something she had never wanted to admit. She was weak. Far weaker than she had ever believed. The anime shows this moment briefly, but it barely explains what was happening inside her mind. And that's exactly where the light novel changes everything. While Rudeus was trying to move forward, Eris couldn't stop thinking about that battle. There was only one thought in her mind. Next time, I don't want to be the one who needs to be protected. Do you see the difference? She wasn't thinking about leaving Rudeus. She was thinking about becoming strong enough to fight beside him. But there's another detail that almost nobody talks about. Eris had always admired Rudeus. Ever since they were children. Many people think she simply fell in love with him. But the light novel reveals something much deeper. She truly believed Rudeus was extraordinary. A genuine genius. Someone who could overcome any obstacle. And that's exactly why watching him lose to Orsted shattered her. Because if even Rudeus could be defeated so effortlessly, what could she possibly do? To her, the answer was obvious. Become stronger. Much stronger. But this is exactly where the biggest misunderstanding in Mushoku Tensei begins. When Eris decided to leave, she wrote only a short letter. We aren't a good match right now. Just a few words. But enough to completely break Rudeus. To him, that message meant only one thing. She had abandoned him. She regretted everything. She never wanted to see him again. But the light novel reveals something completely different. Eris never imagined Rudeus would interpret those words that way. In her mind, the message was simple. I'm going to become stronger. And then I'll come back. To her, that was so obvious. She didn't think she needed to explain anything else. And it was exactly that confidence that created one of the biggest misunderstandings in the entire story. While Rudeus believed he had lost the woman he loved, Eris believed she had taken the first step toward protecting the man she loved. They both wanted the exact same thing. To be together. The problem was that neither of them understood what the other was truly thinking. And that's exactly why their separation remains one of the most heartbreaking moments in Mushoku Tensei. Not because they stopped loving each other, but because neither of them found the words to express what they truly felt. But that still doesn't explain Eris's most important decision. Because she didn't leave just to train. She chose a very specific destination. A place where only the strongest swordsman could survive. And that choice reveals what her true goal had been from the very beginning. Eris's destination had a name. The Sword Sanctum. The place where some of the strongest swordsmen in the world were trained. To most people, it looked like nothing more than a training journey. But for Eris, it meant far more than that. She wasn't there just to learn new techniques. She wanted to eliminate the only weakness she had discovered. Herself. At that moment, Eris reached a very simple conclusion. If she stayed at the same level, the next time Rudeus faced someone like Orsted, she would once again be nothing more than a helpless spectator. And that was something she simply couldn't accept. This is another detail the light novel explores far more deeply than the anime. Throughout her entire journey, Eris never trained for fame. She never trained to surpass Ghislaine. She never dreamed of becoming a legendary heroine. She trained for one person. Rudeus. Every swing of her sword, Every battle, every defeat, every painful lesson, all of it had one single purpose: to return strong enough to fight by his side. And that's what makes Eris so different from many other characters. She never wanted Rudeus to carry every burden alone. She wanted to share that burden with him. But there was one heartbreaking problem. While Eris spent every single day pushing herself beyond her limits, Rudeus believed she hated him. That contrast makes this entire part of the story even more tragic, because both of them were suffering for exactly the same reason: love. She left because she wanted to protect him. He suffered because he believed she had abandoned him. And neither of them had any idea what the other was going through. But there's another detail the light novel makes very clear. Eris's training was brutal. She fought opponents far stronger than herself. She was defeated countless times. She got back up countless times. And she never stopped training. Not because someone forced her to, but because she truly believed she still wasn't strong enough. While many protagonists trained to gain more power, Eris trained so she would never again experience the helplessness she felt in front of Orsted. That single difference completely changes the way we see her growth. She wasn't chasing glory. She was searching for confidence. The confidence to protect someone precious to her. And that's exactly what makes her journey so unique. But perhaps the most interesting detail is something else. For years, a large part of the fanbase believed Eris acted purely on impulse. After all, that had always been one of her defining traits. But this time, the exact opposite happened. For the first time in her life, she made a decision while thinking only about the future. Was it the right decision? That depends on your perspective. Because she chose the worst possible way to communicate her feelings. But her intentions were never selfish. In fact, they were exactly the opposite. She believed she was making a necessary sacrifice. She believed Rudeus would understand why she had left. And she never imagined that those few words would emotionally destroy the person she wanted to protect more than anyone else. Maybe that's the biggest lesson hidden within this part of Mushoku Tensei. It wasn't distance that separated Rudeus and Eris. It was a lack of communication. They both wanted exactly the same thing: to stay together. But they walked down completely different paths. Simply because neither of them could express what they truly felt. And once the light novel reveals all of this, that famous letter takes on a completely different meaning. It no longer feels like a farewell. It feels like a promise. A silent promise. That one day, she would return. Stronger than ever. Maybe that's why so many light novel readers continue to defend Eris to this day. Because they know a side of the story that the anime only briefly touched on. A version where Eris never abandoned Rudeus. She simply chose a painful path, hoping that when they finally met again, she would never have to watch him die in front of her ever again. Now I want to hear your opinion. After learning what Eris was truly thinking in the light novel, has your opinion of that farewell changed? Or do you still believe she made the wrong decision? Let me know in the comments. Because one thing is certain. Once you understand what was really going through Eris's mind, you'll never watch that scene the same way again.